The ridiculously rich clubs in Europe have one resource which gives them an edge above the rest. Any guesses? Of course, it's money. But it's what the money represents which is extremely valuable. It symbolizes a big red reset button with which the club can press at any time and start over. That's what PSG have done recently. If you're rich, no hole is too deep to dig yourself out of. For a brief moment, PSG had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe on the same roster, easily one of the greatest combinations on paper. However, the club still couldn't translate this firepower into the results they craved. Two of these stars left for free and PSG hit reset once again. That is exactly what they've been doing since last summer. Their fascination with assembling a Galactico squad seems to have finally come to an end. The club is embracing modernity and is on the path of undergoing a rebuild with young talents taking center stage. This is a huge fundamental change from PSG's identity ever since Qatar Sports Investment took over in 2011. The era of blockbuster signings kicked off that summer with Javier Pastore's €42 million transfer, setting the tone for years to come. The list of high-priced stars only grew, with names like Ibrahimovic, Di Maria, Cavani, Thiago Silva, Lucas, Hakimi, Icardi, David Luiz, Mbappe, and many more, all joining PSG for fees north of €40 million each, marking the club's ambition to build a powerhouse. Since the takeover, PSG's strategy has centered on splashing big in the transfer market to attract top-tier talent. Long-term planning wasn't essential. Deep pockets allowed them to reset whenever required. Now, while this approach brought domestic success, the coveted Champions League title always eluded them. So why have they suddenly decided to go the long way around and rebuild their team from scratch? Popular sentiment around Mbappe's departure was that PSG would fall apart without him, that losing Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe in quick succession would destabilize their attack. There were even talks of losing out on the league title without their star forward. Early signs show anything but chaos at the club as PSG remain on top of Ligue 1. In fact, Mbappe's move is now being considered ill-timed as Vinicius Jr. has taken over the main role at Madrid. Murmurs and whispers are claiming he'll just be another brick in the shiny Madrid wall. The departure of their all-time leading goalscorer to Madrid was anticipated even if it wasn't appreciated. The arrival of Luis Enrique in 2023 was to foster the start of a new project. Luis Enrique was aware of the limited time he would have with Mbappe and tried to make the most of it. He was occasionally seen offering valuable advice to the French star, who hasn't hit his stride at Real Madrid just yet. The PSG board took some hard lessons from the underwhelming results of their star-studded expensive trio and the missed opportunity to manage Mbappe's exit on their own terms. Recognizing the pitfalls of this high-cost, short-term approach, club president Nasser El Khelaifi set PSG on a new path in the summer of 2023. With the departures of Messi and Neymar, PSG suddenly had a leaner wage bill and a lower average squad age. This shift opened up an opportunity for PSG to prioritize long-term growth by investing in young, emerging talents rather than overspending on established stars. Determined to build a more sustainable foundation, PSG opted to reshape the team around promising players, keeping their wage bill manageable and positioning the club for a fresh, modern era focused on potential and stability rather than extravagant spending alone. Last year, PSG's president said that there would be no explicit star of the team, and moving forward, the strategy was to make it a collective effort. It's not like they will curb their spending, but they will reallocate those funds to spend on better areas than just the transfer market. The club had opened a state-of-the-art training facility in Paris in 2023. It was built to train, educate, and provide accommodation to the academy graduates. Paris is one of the best hotspots around the world to discover young talents and develop them into brilliant players. The Qatar World Cup included 30 players who were born in Paris, while Sao Paulo was second with 12 players. After Brazil, the best country to produce young talents is France. In 2022, PSG brought in Luis Campos as the new sporting director. He's known as one of the best in the world at identifying young talent and has been heavily involved in transfer activities since he joined. He's been tasked with signing young players with the potential to become world beaters one day. PSG's goal is clear: the Champions League. They've poured immense resources into building a star-studded team to claim the trophy for the first time in their history. But after years of trying, PSG discovered that simply collecting top players doesn't guarantee European success. The closest they came was in 2020, with Neymar dropping one of the best Champions League final performances, but Bayern Munich didn't let them through. So if collecting the best players from around the world doesn't win you the Champions League, what does? According to the new PSG outlook, building a sustainable squad with young players who mature into world-class talents might just be the key. They want to develop players and be known for that rather than buying already developed talents. Investing in a young player's development also nurtures a special bond with them over the years. Maybe that's what the French giants need after years of making marquee signings that may not have had their intended impact. The era of high-profile signings, including the memorable Messi window that brought in 28-year-old Danilo Pereira, 35-year-old Ramos, and 30-year-old Wijnaldum, is now in the past. PSG's recruitment focus has shifted entirely to young talent. This was put into action from the very first transfer window that Luis Campos could oversee in 2022. Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, Renato Sanchez, and Mukiel were signed along with a couple of others. All 4 players were under the age of 24 at the time of the transfer. Aging players and deadwood were moved on across the next few windows, but the arrivals were majorly restricted to young talents. Warren Zaïre-Emery broke into the first team at the age of 16. The club has a special connection with the youngster who hails from their youth academy. In the summer of 2023, PSG brought Kolo Muani, Manuel Ugarte, Bradley Barcola, Kangan Lee, Xavi Simons, and Hugo Ekitike. All were 22 or below, except for Kolo Muani, who was 24 at the time. The club's vision to develop youngsters couldn't be more transparent. Luis Enrique was tasked with creating harmony in the dressing room while dealing with exclusive reports on Mbappe leaving every other day. The summer of 2024 came with a blessing in disguise for the club as the Mbappe chapter finally ended. The underwhelming performances for his new club must be somewhat enjoyable to the supporters of PSG who were fed up by the end of the transfer saga. In the same window, João Neves, Desiré Doué, and William Pacho were signed, 2 teenagers and a 22-year-old. Meanwhile, Donnarumma, Hakimi, and Marquinhos are the only ones left from the relatively old guard. Dembele is one of the senior players in the squad at the age of 27. The biggest headline this summer was Mbappe's departure to Real Madrid. The speculation about how PSG would fare without their talisman had started since the rumour began almost 3 years ago. But as soon as reality set in, PSG found themselves in a classic Moneyball situation. Over the past 7 years, the French forward has been involved in scoring close to a third of the team's league goals every season. So his departure came with a huge dilemma of how to replace 1/3 of the team's goals. Luis Campos drew up a Moneyball-like solution, which includes replacing him in parts. A good finisher up front, a good ball carrier on the wing, and someone like Dembele to share the responsibility of his creativity out wide. Which is what prompted the well-timed signings of Gonzalo Ramos, Kolo Muani, and Bradley Barcola. Their combined skill set is supposed to cover the gap left by Mbappe. Aston Villa did something similar when they lost Jack Grealish. While the team with Mbappe in it was obviously very threatening, it now looks to be more well-balanced and playing with purpose. Every player wants to step up and change the game. They don't need to rely on just one player alone. This often happens with teams that lose their talisman, especially if it's their main goal scorer. As soon as they are forced to stop relying on just one outlet, many others step up to the occasion and end up creating a more dynamic setup. PSG have been scoring freely in the league this season, with young talents like Bradley Barcola, for instance, stepping up big time. João Neves has also shown remarkable composure in midfield, leading the team in assists. While the Champions League results have been mixed thus far, PSG remain the only unbeaten side in the French league and are comfortable at the top of the table, making it clear that Mbappe's absence isn't really being felt. Luis Campos and Luis Enrique have combined their minds to come up with a balanced approach for the team going forward. Some crucial positions at the back and midfield are reserved for relatively senior players who bring experience to the side. The other roles are left up to the developing wonder kids who will only get better with time. Marquinhos is an exceptional leader, especially valuable with a younger squad, bringing calm and confidence to every game. Overall, the team has an ideal balance of energetic youth and experienced leadership. The president mentioned how winning the Champions League is obviously something to try your best at, but it's not necessarily an objective. They are focusing on the development of their squad in an organic manner and don't want to force the issue. So the days of Beckham, Ibrahimovic, Di Maria and Neymar have come to an end, as we will now see a long-term project unfold in the French capital. Recent investments into their training facilities and youth academy point towards a sustainable growth plan, especially considering how good the local talent is in Paris. Don't be surprised to hear about wonder kids coming out of PSG's new academy in a few years, especially if the club starts extensively scouting in their own city. Only time will tell how the rebuild project goes for the club, but we all know they could hit that golden reset button any day and turn back to their old ways without batting an eye. So do you think this new approach can give PSG what they most desperately want? What should they be doing differently? Let us know down below.